that's just me, yeah. Like, but I think the expectation that people have of me, acha, chalo, if I'm walking for an interview, they'll think I'll do some jiggle, and I'm like, let's get real, guys. Like, you would think that I'm a fool to do that. So, of course, with me, the other challenge is that it's not just fashion, it's fashion with humor. Andaman and Nicobar Islands or Lakshadweep, like, people really live the island life where they don't care about what you're doing. They're just living the chill life, and that's really what it is. We do a lot of research with the people.
Hi Ishita, welcome to Social Catcher.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I love your work, I really do, because you have a mix of everything a non-fashion girl need to learn, and that's why I really like that you have hacks, that you have tips, you have different kind of states that you're representing now. I really like it. But to start with it, what made you mix random fun and sarcasm with your fashion?
I think fashion is something that has always been perceived as something which is taken too seriously, and I think it is a representation of somewhere people think it's just for the elite. You need to be a particular way, you need to walk a particular way, you need to speak a particular way to be termed as a fashionable girl, which I feel like is not true. I feel like fashion is for everyone's back, and it's something which should resonate with someone who trips, who falls, who sits in the most bizarre way, and that's about it. So I wanted to express that and make fashion more fun, and that's how we came up with How to Fun in Fashion, where yes, I like fashion and that's a big part of me, but I also like to express it in a fun way so it reaches a wider audience and more people are able to relate to it.
But tell me, after making so many videos, do you find it difficult to maintain that vibe? Do you find it that, okay, how do I add fun to a particular video every single time?
I think reinventing is a part of this process, whether it's in content creation or in any business. Even the most successful, biggest of businesses are constantly looking to reinvent, because that's how you stay relevant in today's times. People get bored very quickly, especially when it comes to content creation. There's so much saturation. So you also have to keep in mind that you're not the only creator that is existing. There's so many out there. How do you stand out? How do you also stand out from the existing content that you've been doing? So reinventing is a part of that process anyway, which I enjoy very much, which is being creative with content is something that I really like to do. So that's something that's a part of the process, and I think it helps to sort of keep coming up with, instead of reinventing in every single content, it makes sense to come up with a series or something that can be leveraged for a long time. So that's what we try to do, whether it's Estates of India or How to Fun in Fashion. These are independent series which are very different from each other and very different from the existing content that you see with the pool of creators today, right? So that's what we constantly keep doing, and that's something I enjoy personally.
Do you feel that people typecast you in some sense, that okay, she's gonna make all her fashion videos are gonna be like that only? Like there's going to be subtext, there's going to be a fun element attached to it. Do you think that that's happening?
I think that is my niche, and I think it's a good thing if they're typecasting me in that, because I know that I'm the only creator falling in that bracket, right? So that's, I think one can say that it's a typecast, but I also feel like it's my biggest strength because that's how I stand out. Also, that's just me, yeah. Like, it's just at the end of the day, people are like, oh, it's so different. Or maybe it resonates with some people, maybe it doesn't resonate with some people, and that's completely okay, because it's an extension of who I am at the end of the day.
I wanted to ask you this as well, that do you think, how close is Ishita to Ishita we see on Reels and everywhere else?
How close are to me?
How close?
Acha, how close?
Close is Ishita that we see online.
Yeah.
Ishita like you as an
I think
personality.
It's very much me, and I think the expectation that people have of me, acha, chalo, if I'm walking for an interview, they'll think I'll do some jiggle, and I'm like, let's get real, guys. Like, you would think that I'm a fool to do that. But that is a part of me, but it's not all of me, for sure. Of course, you going through, like any human being, there's a turmoil of emotions that you go through. You can't be fun all the time. You can't be sarcastic all the time. You can't be funny all the time. And that's okay, you know, but it's definitely an extension of me, but not all of me.
Okay. Coming to your series, States of India, you have done so many episodes till date now. Can you take me behind the process of working on this series? Like, how do you plan? How do you plan that? Okay, this state I have to talk about or research or anything that if you can share something about it.
Yeah, I think with States of India, the thing is that we started with the intention of releasing episodes on particular dates because we're also targeting certain festivals or certain occasions that are very relevant to the people of the state, and it means something to them, so that we can outline that and we can show that also, because of course we're not just targeting that particular state, we're also targeting the rest of India that can know about that state, right? There's so many festivals that we don't know of. We know Holi, Diwali, ye wo, but like, okay, there is so much more in India. There's so many festivals in each and every city, town, state all together. So that was one of the things. So when we started, we pretty much planned when we are going to release each and every state. But apart from that, when it comes to research, yes, it's a very intense process. Also, people are very close to their culture and, you know, they're very protective of it. So when a foreigner, and by foreigner I don't mean somebody from India, but somebody who is not from that culture, takes the liberty to express their culture in some way, people will be very cautious and they'll be ready to nitpick. So you have to be very careful about your research. You have to be very careful about what you say. Of course, with me, the other challenge is that it's not just fashion, it's fashion with humor. So I need to be very careful about what I'm joking, because I really need to be cautious of the sentiments of people, right?
You can't
because
afford to touch.
you can't afford to piss them off, basically, and you have to be very, very careful. So that was another challenge. Then there's another challenge, a self-inflicted challenge of doing the language also, or sometimes you can do the language but the accent is wrong or whatever. So I think there are a lot of variables, but I like those challenges. Of course, some of them worked and some of them don't work, and that's completely okay. But I think to respect their culture, the community, and the whole tradition that they belong to, also celebrating the handloom, the textiles, the craft, I think that for me is very fulfilling. Personally, I feel like I have grown with this series. Every time I research, I feel like I'm doing something, I'm studying, I'm educating myself, if not anybody else, you know. So I feel very fulfilled making this piece of content even before it's released, because I feel like, okay, you know, I've learned something from this process.
So which one was the most difficult one?
I think tapping into the union territories was harder also, because the research is very limited. So to find contacts over there and to also find relevant information, was the research part of it was very difficult. Whether it's Andaman and Nicobar Islands or Lakshadweep, like, people really live the island life where they don't care about what you're doing. They're just living the chill life, and that's really what it is. So to seek that kind of help was difficult, but also very fulfilling when you do something that is not available so easily. It's, you know, when it gets checked, it's like, oh yeah, like, this is satisfying.
So what's your process? You visit that place, you understand how it is, you shoot there, or how's it?
So sometimes we shoot at the location, but sometimes we pick out locations within where I stay, which is in Delhi. We do a lot of research with the people. So we reach out to local people who understand culture and tradition. We've also reached out to some officers, you know, through Ministry of Culture to understand, because we weren't able to find any contact. So we go into the depths of, like, I feel like you can read as many books, you can do as much Google research, but I think what people know is what is actual research, because there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. And I was shocked to find out myself that how little the internet also knows about the culture that is India, because India is just so big. We have so many tribes, we have so much happening over here. So nobody's really been able to document all of it together. So in bits and pieces, we have to find this out. But yeah, speaking to people, the local people is the best thing to
I think
get
you're
this
doing
research.
commendable work with it, because
Thank you.
I have not seen as many as cultural and textile and handloom showcase in this way, the way you're doing it. So I'm really, really amazing. And now while I'm talking to you, I can see that how much efforts that you put into
Yeah.
making everything correct. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That when you started, you knew that you have to put so much effort.
Yes.
So what was your aim with this particular series, that you have to? This is
I
what you
think
want
like
to achieve?
like your first question when you asked, okay, what is it? How do you keep coming up with something new? It came from there, where somebody in the team was like, okay, I should do different languages, because I often mix English with Hindi with my content. And then one of my team members is Bengali. It's like, Ishta, why don't you say Bengali? Why is it always Hindi and English? And I'm like, yeah, she has a point. Why is it always Hindi and English, right? Like India has so many languages. So we started getting into languages, but I couldn't justify how suddenly in this makeup video I'm speaking Punjabi or speaking Bengali. So we started with the concept of doing different states. And that really, like, of course we knew that this is going to be so much work, like doing different states, sourcing for that, getting all the products, doing the language also, we knew. But I feel like it also was very challenging ki, acha, okay, if we don't do this, like, yes, this is a lot of work. If we don't do this, and what? Then we can't find any other thing that may be challenging for me or maybe fulfilling for me also. And I feel like this was something which resonated with me in terms of, okay, I want to do something for the handloom sector, for the craft industry of India, right? Like this is something which is stepping into the right zone in every way, whether it's creativity, whether it's the challenge, whether it's the research, or whether it's promoting a sustainable life or the handloom sector of India. So I felt like it was ticking all the boxes, and that's why I was like, challenge accepted, like let's do it. And I feel like, of course, I've made errors and there's room for improvement. Every time I see a previous episode, I'm like, ye better ho sakta tha, this could have been better. And you know, those challenges are always there, but at least we know that we tried.
And how did your audience receive the first time when you started with the series?
I think the response was good. When we started, I didn't even know that we're going to go all the way through. I thought, acha, nahi jayega, 3-4 episode mein we'll stop it. But I think because the response was good, because the effort is so much, the response also has to sort of match with it. So the response was good. I was feeling nice about putting this kind of content. I seeked fulfillment from it. And so we went ahead and we went all the way through. So we thought we would only cover the states. But then we started covering the union territories also, and we covered all of India.
So coming back to fashion, so definition of fashion is evolving. Every day it's evolving. We have conversations about sustainability. We have conversations about inclusivity. We, like I was telling you before it as well, that why I like your content is it's something for a non-fashion girl as well. So for so many people, it can be overwhelming. So how do you define fashion for yourself and for fashion in general? And how, like, I will take it from there and then we'll discuss more. I want to discuss more about how it is evolving with inclusivity and sustainability, because I am someone who struggle with fashion sometimes, and I don't always have a good day with fashion when it comes to it. And several times I go back to my wardrobe and I say, like, nah, this is not what I can wear. I'm not very comfortable. Shopping is also something which is not easy for all of us, especially for plus size people. So I want to hear your thoughts about it.
I think when it comes to inclusivity, there's a lot of chatter and conversation about it, but I don't feel brands are fully inclusive or they're giving that thought. I remember having a brand of my own when we used to make, so of course you have to make, you start from an extra small and you go all the way to XXL and beyond. And I remember that only from my medium to XXL would always be a sellout. Like my smalls would just keep hanging, because the thing is that these people get options everywhere, and it's the other latter, and this I'm talking about years ago. It's not even like a recent thing, right? I had my label 6-7 years ago. So even at that time, like those sizes would sell out because these girls would not find options. So whenever they do or they like something, they will pick it up. So it's not like people are not picking it up and people of that size don't exist. In fact, that is the dominant size in a country like India. And so I'm just shocked that we're still struggling with finding designers or brands that do these sizes, because they're looking for options. And so these things, I feel like there's always room for improvement in that area. I still have so many friends who feel like they can't go to shops and just walking. And of course that it has become better for sure, but it's not there. It's not fully. I don't feel people realize how much potential there is for brands also. When it comes to sustainability, these are independent conversations.
I know.
So sustainability, I feel like people feel like, okay, today you're wearing a cotton kurta, you're very sustainable. I don't feel like that's the case. I mean, if everyone was to wear cotton, तो पानी नहीं बचेगा इस country में. You know what I mean? So I think sustainability is a lifestyle that you live. It's not relevant to the materials that you use. You know, it can. I've spoken about these plastic boxes that I picked up from Paris 20 years ago. I still use those plastic boxes. They're with me. They're still in good condition. They're just plastic boxes, but they have lasted me for so long and they serve the purpose. So I feel like, you know, categorizing things in terms of plastic, of course there's reusable plastic, and you know, there's so many variations to all of this, but I feel like at the end of the day, the item that lasts you long and that you use more often is the most sustainable thing. Whether it's a polyester t-shirt, whether it's a cotton t-shirt, whether it's a plastic box, it does not matter. I feel like it's how you're using things, how you're storing things also. Sometimes we don't even talk about how you're storing things, because that changes the life of the garment. If I take out this trouser and I don't fold it properly and I just throw it inside the cupboard, it's not going to last that long, because you're essentially playing into the weaves and you know the structure. You're changing the chemical structure of this trouser the moment you're crumpling it and just throwing it. So these are conversations that people are not having. These things increase the longevity of a piece, whether it's a bag, whether it's a shoe, how you're storing it, how you're cleaning it, how you're putting it. It's not just the material, right? So I think we've gotten so obsessed with material that it's just like, oh, you know, sometimes people get a lot of flack for of course using leather goods, which I stand by, because of course animal lives matter and that's animal cruelty 100%. But I feel like, okay, if you know, like if my mom has a leather bag, am I going to just throw it, or am I going to continue to use it and not buy another bag, whether it's a cloth bag, a basket bag, or another leather bag? It's better to use what is already existing. So these things are important. Like sometimes I'll use a vintage bag and people will call me out and I'm like, bhai, ye 30 saal purana hai. Like, you know, isse better kya cheez hai? Isse zyada sustainable kya hai? Of course. So I'm not saying I'm 100% sustainable. I'm not even an advocate for that. I'm not even close. But I feel like the journey, I'm making conscious decisions towards it. It might not be 100% and it's not. But I think it's a lifestyle change.
I think moms know sustainability way better
than us.
Anybody
yeah,
else.
Grandmother, she'll wear the same sari. My grandmother used to take the same sari, add borders to it, remove borders, add a different border, and that is sustainability.
My mom has worn her sari all through her life, and then she's like, now I can't wear the sari. Then she gets it designed into a suit, and then she wears it as a suit.
That is sustainability because you're using the same thing. You take that sari, then you wear it, then you dye it, then you make a suit outfit, then you make a top outfit, whatever it is. I think that is the lifestyle.
So I had both the conversation in one thing is because I want to understand what future do you see for fashion. Because like I was telling you earlier as well, that it is evolving. It is evolving as we speak. It is a definite... and plus some fashion is something that is unique to each one of us. What is fashion to me might not be fashion to you. What is fashion to you might not be a fashion statement for me. So that's why I want to understand what future do you see of the industry.
I think that's a very tricky question because India is a mix of a lot of things. Indian consumer is a very, very, very price conscious consumer, and that's why the fast fashion in this country is thriving because we are a very price conscious industry, and so we are going to lean towards things that are cheaper and easily available and things. But of course there is a rise of the call for the planet, where there is we need to make more conscious decisions, but that is an expensive affair. Today if I have to buy something which is very which supports the handloom industry also, and which is something which inches towards a sustainable lifestyle, I know that that is a more expensive choice which I can afford now. But how can you expect that from a 20 or a 21-year-old, right? Because they're essentially living on pocket money or barely earning anything, or on internships, right? So they have to pay rent also, they have to travel also, they have to go out and eat also, and they have to put fashion on their back also, right?
And
so
have to meet that everyday fashionable
kind of. And of course it's also the pressure of buying something new every time, because hey, I can't wear the same t-shirt every day, my colleague wears something new every day, so even I, so it's that peer pressure of like not repeating your clothes, not doing this. So I think India is a mix of all of this. And then there is this other conversation also that luxury industry is also thriving in India all across the world. Like the Indian consumers are buying the luxury items today. Earlier you used to go to the luxury stores, you used to see the same collection for a whole year. In fact, India used to get the most, like the rejected stock or the old stock. You would not see the new stock here, but now you see it here because there's that much purchase power that people have. If the consumer is going to buy, they are going to replenish the stock, and
so many luxury brands are coming to India with their stores.
Yes, because it's doing well, right? There's a reason why all of this is happening. So India is a mix of all of this. And I think it depends on us about how we choose to put forward our piece of content and educate people on all these three things. I have personally stopped buying fast fashion, but I can also afford to make these choices, right? I've reached a point in my life where I can afford to spend a little bit more and get the right item for me. So I think you have to go through the beats of it to sort of realize what's good and what's bad. But India will always be a mix of all of these things.
Okay, before wrapping up, I want to know what's next for you.
I think what's next is we're just wrapping up season 1 of Fish Tastes of India, and we're moving into season 2 where we're making it very, very, very big. We are going all out in terms of everything that we're delivering in Fish Tastes of India. I think we've also hired a different team for it, and we're going big with production, research, everything. So I think that is something that is very exciting for all of us, because I know that it comes with a lot of challenges, and yes, we've been through our set of challenges, but dealing with something like this is going to be another challenge, but also looking forward to this fulfilling experience.
Great, all the best for this, because I know that there have been ample challenges for sure, and there are going to be more.
Yeah, always.
But all the best for the season 2, because I really look forward to it. I really love your season 1 as well, and I'm sure, and it's a backstory that I would want to tell you that when I first saw your episode, for a sister publication, we had a similar idea, and I was like, at least someone is going ahead with it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that
Thank you.
you are doing it, and I'm really hoping all the best for you.
Thank you. You're very sweet.